Absentee voting is an opportunity for voters who, for whatever reason, either can't make it to the polls or choose not to go to their polling place to still have that chance to cast their ballot for the election. And absentee voting is a process that occurs before Election Day.
And when can Minnesotans start voting absentee?
So here in Minnesota, we are already in our early voting or absentee voting period. The federal law requires that all military and overseas voters have at least 45 days to cast their ballot in any election. And Minnesota law actually aligns exactly along with that. So all Minnesota voters have that chance to cast an absentee ballot starting 45 days before the election up until 5 p.m. the day before.
So if someone wants to vote absentee, how do they get that ballot?
In all cases with our absentee voting, in order to vote, you have to submit an application for an absentee ballot. So I know in 2020, there was a lot of confusion about people who were thinking they were getting ballots sent to them directly in the mail. With COVID, there was a really strong push for people to vote by absentee ballot and vote in the mail from the privacy and safety of their home. However, in order to receive an absentee ballot, you actually have to complete an application. And a lot of those things that were coming in the mail to people were applications from different organizations, nonpartisan efforts, different parties can always send applications as well. An application is going to include the name and address of the voter. It also has their date of birth, and this is so that the information can be verified within that voting system to make sure that all voter information is verified prior to sending out a ballot. Also, a voter is going to have to provide either their Minnesota driver's license or ID number or the last four digits of their social security number. And this is that identification piece that goes to be able to verify when the ballot is returned that it is being returned and cast by that voter who requested it to start with. So one thing I do want to point out for people is oftentimes when we fill out that application, oftentimes we'll put our driver's license or the last four digits of our social security number. But that information also has to be provided on the signature envelope when that ballot is returned. And if you only put one number on the application, and then when you're returning that ballot later, you're not really sure which one you did put, and you accidentally put the other number on there, that verification cannot happen by those election administrators. So I would encourage everybody to put both numbers on the application. That just goes onto your voter record, and then whichever number you choose to put on it when you return the ballot is going to be able to be verified.
And when does that ballot need to be received?
So ballots must be received by 3 p.m. on election day in order to be counted in Minnesota. Every state has different laws as it pertains to absentee voting, and many states do allow for postmarks to occur in order for voting absentee ballots to be counted. However, in Minnesota, you do have to return your ballot and it has to be received by the elections office no later than 3 p.m. Now, ballots can be returned either by prepaid postage, first class mail. You can drop it in the mailbox. You can also return your ballot in person to your city or township or county elections office, or you can designate someone to return it for you. This is called agent delivery. And if you do have an agent who delivers your absentee ballot back to the office for you, they can only return ballots for 3 other voters in an election. They're going to be required to provide identification and also sign an agent delivery log. So it's important to note that when you are arranging for your ballot to be returned, that whoever might be bringing it back for you, if you're designating someone, they have to make sure they haven't returned more than 3 ballots.
And what about that witness signature? Because I know that was waived in 2020 during the pandemic. What about that witness signature for this election?
You are correct. It was waived in 2020. However, it is back in play according to Minnesota law as it's required for the 22 election cycle. Every voter who votes by absentee ballot does need to have a witness, and a witness can be someone who is any registered voter in Minnesota, or if you're already lucky enough to be wintering someplace a little warmer than Minnesota and you don't have a registered Minnesota voter who might be handy for you, you can have a notary public, a postal official, anyone who is witnessed or who can witness an oath, like a city officer or township officer could assist you with that as well.
Really good information. And when folks send back that ballot, I know you talked about the deadlines, has to be there by 3 p.m. on election day. When is that ballot actually counted?
So when those ballots actually don't get counted until after the polls close at 8 o'clock. Starting 7 days prior to the election, it is possible for us to go ahead and start opening and processing those ballots. However, there is no